gardener's diary is about those people.
Outside Estacada, Oregon, surrounded by the majestic Cascade Mountains, Penny Vogel and Millie Kiggins have created a magnificent country garden on land that has been in Millie's family since 1913. This is a story about two women who became mother and daughter, all because of a garden. When Penny and her husband first came to live on Millie's 52-acre ranch, they had no idea that Penny's small flower bed behind their house would grow into the giant 2-acre cottage garden it is today. But the garden wasn't the only unexpected event.
I have this gardener that came to live here, and in order to ensure the fact that I don't lose the gardener, I adopted her legally. So she's got to stay here now and look after the garden.
Before the adoption could take place, other family members had to be consulted.
I asked Penny if I could adopt her, and she said she'd ask her mother. And she asked her mother, and her mother said, "You can't have too many mothers."
My husband has two mother-in-laws, and that's sort of tricky. And sometimes I think he's not sure about that, but he handles it pretty well.
I ended up with 3 granddaughters and 7 great-grandchildren, so the easy way to do it. And I was 69 years old when I had my kid.
Work in the garden is shared by the two women. Penny tends to the plants, but Millie's talents lay elsewhere.
I don't like to dig in the dirt. I don't like to get my hands dirty. But I can take transmission or an engine apart, and that grease doesn't bother me. But I don't like to dig in the dirt. This farm has been in the family since 1913. My granddad came here. When Granddad died in 1935, my father bought the farm from Grandma, and then I bought it from Dad in 1958. And then this lady here came in 86? Needed a place to live, and I had a house, so I rented her and her husband a house, and they've been here ever since, too. When Penny came to this farm to live, it looked a little like Tobacco Road. There was junk piled all over, old pieces of cars, and scrap, and all sorts of junk. So she started this garden, just a little patch. Wanted to fill in a little pond that was out in back, had muddy water in it. And her grandsons just loved to play in that muddy water. So she asked if she could fill it up, and I said she could. And that's how the garden started, back of the house there. The apple trees on this farm were here when my grandparents came. These trees could be as much as 90 or 100 years old. This one in back of me here, my dad always said it had warbles because it's got the knots on the bark. I don't know what caused it. I've never seen another tree that had that on there, but that tree's kind of an unusual old tree.
Well, the apple trees sort of lend themselves to have beds made around them. I like the beds that are around the base of trees, and it makes it easier for Millie to mow. This little house is where my husband and I first lived when we moved here, and this was mown pasture grass. And everything you see here has been done in about 10 years.
In 10 years?
In 10 years.
What do you attribute to? Is this mushroom compost?
Mushroom compost.
Is that your secret ingredient?
Well, it certainly seems to work well for us.
So I see you have it on top of the beds. Do you just mulch with it, or
Yes.
do you work it into the
No,
beds?
I just mulch with it.
And you don't amend the soil?
No.
I
use it because that way it holds the moisture in, it gives nutrients to the plants, and they seem to love it.
Where does all this mushroom compost come from?
Actually, we get this direct